Come on. This is how we do. That's me. That's right. That's me. That's right. That's me. Damn right.
One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
One, two, 1, 1, 2.
Here we are. 1-2. Here we are, Adventure Park, Watergrasshill, the setting for round 3 of the Lucky Day Competition's Irish Drift Series. And just like that, we've made it to the midway point of the 2025 Championship. And every run from here on in can make or break our Drivers' Championship hopes. With 2 rounds came 2 different winners, and our stacked grid of 40 drivers have all come here with the same goal of adding their name to the list and be crowned King of the Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. My name is Eddie Power, and alongside me is my good friend and Irish Drift legend, Mike Fitzgerald. Mike, we've had an explosive start to the season already, but round 3 is moving day, and a podium finish here could cement a Drivers' Championship hopes. We have 3 drivers in particular who are in contention for the championship, Mike. Dwayne McKeever, Ryusei Akiba, Harry Kerr, they're the early contenders. Where do you see it going from here?
Yeah, Eddie, it's the big 3, isn't it? It's the story of these 3 guys so far this season. It's going to be a very interesting round. Round 2 is I always think round 2 is the one that you just got to get over, because, it's still, the championship is still kind of shaping up at that stage. But after round 2, we definitely have a very concrete image of where this championship is going. Dwayne McKeever leads with 190 points. Ryusei Akiba, all the way from Japan, with 186. And Harry Kerr bringing up the rear of the big 3 with 143. But you know what? Harry Kerr did absolute crazy things here just a year ago in Watergrasshill, winning that final against IDC champion Alan Hines, and he definitely has a win in him today.
Well, he certainly does, and you'll remember that particular run, Mike, stood out for one particular reason, where he took the wing mirrors quite literally off the car. He drove that hard in that final battle against Alan Hines.
Both wing mirrors.
Both wing mirrors, yeah. I mean, it was really, really crazy. Another performance like that from him today, and he can push himself right up the order and potentially take the lead of the championship. But the sun is out here in Watergrasshill. Ryusei Akiba, Mike, we've talked about him, all the way from Japan. First time ever here in Watergrasshill. He's taken on the hill in Cork. He hasn't managed to take top step, but he's been the more consistent of our top 3 contenders. 2 second-place finishes in 2 rounds. A crazy start to his maiden voyage in the Irish Drift Series.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy with a win in him, that's for sure. It's so difficult. I can only imagine what it's like making the huge journey over from Japan, getting settled in Ireland, the time differences, jet lag, everything. It's much more difficult for Ryusei to compete here than it is for all the Irish guys. But, he looks good in the car. He looks settled in Irish competition, and maybe this might be the round that we might see him, even though Watergrasshill is very technical and it is one of those tracks that requires a bit of course knowledge. But let's see what he can do. I think he also has a guy with a win in him.
It's interesting you mentioned it, Mike, because earlier on this morning in practice, we watched him take his very first lap of the circuit and absolutely nailed that particularly tricky second zone on the track, the inner zone, which we'll come to later. It is, of course, a track with 10 scoring zones, 9 outside zones, 1 inside zone. There's 3 decel zones. There's a scary wall run. It's fast. It's on throttle. It's hard on the brakes. It's got a little bit of everything here, Mike.
It does indeed. Yeah, super technical track, Eddie. It's the entry point. I was speaking with the judges there. It's the entry point was catching out most of the Pro 2 competitors yesterday. It's so technical here in Watergrasshill. You have to fire the car in over the brow here, through clipping zone 1 as wide as possible, and then you got to let the car unnaturally almost wash very, very wide, kind of slow the car on the foot brake, then put down the throttle and get it pointed into clipping zone 2. It's a very late apex here in order to make the bottom straight work. So there's a definite technique. A lot of the Pro 2 guys yesterday were struggling with it. The top guys were getting it, as Kieran Hines, our head judge, offers us a Ferrero Rocher. With this Rocher, Kieran, you were really spoiling us. And but I'm good for a Rocher because I'm talking now, Kieran, thank you. So yeah, very technical track. It's a very specific technique in order.
We're being very well fed this year.
We are. We're being very well looked after. But it's a very specific technique. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some crazy battles here. It's a track with a fantastic entry, which allows the chase driver to get into position very quickly.
Well, as always, we're kicking off the show with qualifying, and each of our drivers will make 2 non-consecutive passes of the circuit where they'll be scored out of 100 by our judges. The higher of their 2 scores counts as their qualifying score, with the highest top 32 scoring drivers progressing to battles. And you know what, Mike? They're warming tyres. We're not going to have time to go over to our judges to find out how they're going to get that perfect score, but we're going to talk you through it as qualifying progresses. And first up on our list today, making it through from yesterday's competition, is a man that I unfortunately know all too well because he put me out of competition. A young gun, Alex Butler, in with the pro drivers here for only the first time in his short career.
Yeah, that was a real easy battle for him yesterday, Eddie. But today's going to be tougher. Sorry, buddy. Today's going to be tougher, that's for sure. Young Alex Butler, one of the up-and-coming drivers in the championship, looks fantastic in the Pro 2 rookie class. the Pro 2 class outright for sure, but today is going to be a whole different thing. And you know, the Pro 2 drivers obviously compete on road tyres, but today the Pro drivers are allowed to run semi-slick rear tyres, and it changes the whole dynamic of the car. So these drivers coming through from yesterday have a whole new technique to learn today.
Yeah, so as you can see, Alex Butler lines up, and of course he did qualify into the pros in Bishop's Court, I believe, last year, but they had problems with the engine and they couldn't run the car. He's got the car on the line. The engine seems to be working. We know he's working from his performance yesterday. Here we go, Alex Butler, the first of our 40 drivers to take to the circuit here in Watergrasshill. Can he master the hill? Well, it's a nice line through that first section and nails that second zone, and it all just flows from here, Mike.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were speaking about. That fast initiation, let the car wash out, then hit the throttle, get the car steered into clipping point 2. Now, Alex, he's got it in his locker to put it up to the Pro boys today, and he's on that nice outside line. Exactly what the judges want to see. Maybe came a tiny bit shallow there around zone 7, 8, in fact, actually. 10 clipping points.
Mike, look at this, shuts it down.
Shuts it down, yeah.
And you know what? Yeah, there was some moments there throughout that run, Mike, where you're right, he was shallow. But just towards the end, it just fell apart from him, and that's going to be a 0 on the board, unfortunately, for young Alex Butler. Definitely has it in the locker. Third place qualifier in the Pro 2 competition yesterday. We move it back to the start line, where now Matt Derrin, who had an incredible day yesterday on a dream weekend here, he's mixing it up with the pros. Can he get it together, Mike?
Yeah, his first podium in 4 years of competition yesterday. Matt was absolutely delighted. Turbo V8 power in this BMW, turbo BMW engine. And the best beard in drifting as well, as we mentioned yesterday. And Matt, he's got the he had the best line yesterday as well, I think, of all the drivers at times. And looking very, very good here, Eddie. He has the horsepower. He has the experience from yesterday. And, you know, we could have a dark horse here.
Yeah, he's certainly making it work. Really nice guy behind the scenes. Hand out the window, absolutely loving it. Always a smile on his face. You know, himself and his wife, just two of the nicest people. They come here, no matter what happens, it's all smiles, all laughs, all jokes. And right now for Matt Derrin, having a dream weekend, but as we wait a score to drop in for him, he will be our highest qualifier after only 2 drivers, so he can enjoy that for a moment as we just await clarification from the judges of what that score will be. It'll be a 61.3. I'd imagine that won't be enough to get him qualified, but he can enjoy, as I said, that moment at the top of our order. As we move it on to yesterday's winner, Colin O'Sullivan.
Yeah, Colin O'Sullivan from Kerry, yesterday's winner on his birthday weekend while he does his leaving cert. So interesting enough weekend there for Colin O'Sullivan, taking the win yesterday during his leaving cert. Not many people can say that. If you're watching from abroad, the leaving cert is basically our high school leaving exam, which is considered quite important in Ireland, but Colin has more important things, Eddie, and he's looking good here.
He certainly does, has more important things on his mind as he goes deep into that second hairpin, taking the clips with him as he goes. And again, on the high from yesterday's top step podium finish in the Pro 2 category, and that will do his championship hopes a world of good as he moves right up the order. But all the focus is on Pro 2. And look, again, another driver, Mike, shutting it down, getting gripping up perhaps just on that final section of the circuit. When we talk about this track, it's 10 zones, it's really long, there's a lot in it, and there's just so many different changes in grip levels throughout the circuit. Even though it's bone dry, you can always be caught out. A score does come in for Colin O'Sullivan, gets a 45, but as we say, don't expect that to be enough. Now, next on your screen is Christopher Dean making his first appearance at the Irish Drift Series this year in 2025.
Absolutely. Nephew, of course, of the ever-famous James Dean, who is down there in the pits displaying his beautiful RTR Ford Mustang.
I mean, who could you think of to have as a better spotter than, you know, the greatest drifter to ever do it, James Dean? Well, Christopher Dean will be hoping to try and replicate what his cousin can do as he makes his first pass of the circuit, fires that S14 in nice and hard, full commitment, full throttle, nails that second zone, and as we say, Mike, get those first couple of zones right, and it all just flows from here.
Yeah, really like the angle there that Christopher just dialed in. Now loses a little bit there. The rear of the car just hooking up. You can see those semi-slick tires digging in, but I like the angle that he piled on into zone 2 there. Just used the angle to point the car in. The judges putting big weight on the entry here today. Lovely on the wall there from Christopher as well. Right out exactly where the judges want to see. Hitting the limiter. 2 JZ power in a Sylvia. That's the recipe, Eddie.
Some small corrections throughout the run, you'd say, Mike, if you were to be critical, but I think that's going to go right up the order, set the bar nice and high, and it certainly does. An 87.7 for Christopher Dean, and you know, the target's been set nice and early. You're going to have to see people going into the 90s if they're going to have any hopes of taking down Christopher Dean. As we move it back to the line where Stefan Stefanoff, the visiting driver, looks for his little piece of Irish history here, and can he make it happen on his first run of qualifying? Well, full throttle as he makes the long pull down that first straight, throws it in on big angle, Mike. It just catches understeer.
It does indeed, yeah. The car just tends to get very light and then hook up right before clipping zone 2 and just caught Stefan out. Maybe he has a mechanical issue here, and he might be... we're hearing a lot of revs there, and we're not seeing a lot of traction. He might have a slipping clutch there, I think, in the car. Maybe that's exactly what happened.
Regardless, I mean, this track looks so easy, Mike. It just looks like it's a few different hairpins, but that entry in particular, it's full throttle all the way to the initiation point, and then it's downhill. It's off camber, and it's so hard to get it right. And if you just mistime your initiation, by a split second, it's the difference between you making that second zone and not making it work, as we saw with Stefan Stefanoff. We move it back to the line now where Damien Wilkinson awaits his first run.
Yeah, the man returning to action here with the 500 brake horsepower 1JZ powered S14. A fantastic competitor. He hasn't competed since 2018, so back in the saddle for Damien Wilkinson. Was always a hard pilot. I think I've had a couple of collisions with this man myself over the years, and definitely not one to hold back, but let's see what he can do back in action here today.
Yeah, well, he gets the order from our marshal. You can see our start line traffic light system that we'll be using later on in the battles, but as for now, Damien Wilkinson sets his sight firmly on that initiation point. Started the scoring zone a little bit tentative, I think, just maybe backed out of it, and you can see it caused him to understeer quite a bit as he comes through that first zone. It's definitely going to hurt the score here, Mike. Don't expect to see this one going anywhere towards the top of our scoring list. And Damien Wilkinson, I think he's going to have to just reset, try and get it right on the second run, but definitely a driver that's going to have it all to do and have that pressure on the second run if he has any hopes of making it into our battles later on this afternoon.
Yeah, of course.
I, for one, know the pressure of that from yesterday. It's not a nice place to be. But sometimes it can, just set the mind and the focus right to where it needs to be. And a lot of these drivers have what it takes to. We do see a score from Damien Wilkinson, 44, but I would say a lot of mistakes there.
Yeah,
not going to be enough.
And that's where the sports psychology comes in, Eddie. You've got pretty much 45 minutes now waiting in the pits, knowing that you're not qualifying and you have to get into the zone, and that's where the mind games come into it.
It certainly is, and as we see, the biggest man on the grid, Mark McKevitt, in his brand new 180SX, an incredible build here. RB 600 horsepower underneath the bonnet, and a mechanic from Nori. He's 6 foot and 9 inches, and a new build for 2025, Mike, and really getting to grips with the car. Struggled with in the early rounds of being driving his car as aggressive as he really needs to, but it looks as though maybe those early nerves with the car have started to fade, and he's starting to kind of get that comfort, find that comfort zone, and drive the car as hard as it needs to be driven. Looks like a decent first run there for Mark McKevitt.
Ed, obviously the drivers give us the commentary notes, and Mark McKevitt is the one driver that's given us his height, 6 foot 9 inches. I think he's trying to out-height James Dean here.
He certainly is, but it could be two measurements as well. So a score on the board for Mark McKevitt, a 56.7, and he's getting better and better, he feels, with each round.
Yeah, well, Christopher...
Really focusing on his line driving, Mike, as you were just about to say it.
Yeah, Christopher getting better and better every round. As you said, very accomplished rally driver. Trying his hand at drifting. Now, I was speaking with Paul and the guys, Paul there and Chris Brown, Paul Stryker from Paul's Parts. They did a new engine setup on this car. It was running a pretty much stock SR20, just a slightly overboard SR20 with a big Garrett 3076 on it, so it wasn't the easiest engine to drive up to this point. The guys have respected the engine, given Christopher a much more usable, more powerful engine, and it works for him. It's 79.3 there for Christopher O'Callaghan, so he'll be delighted with that one. So as we move it along to a man who was a championship contender just a couple of years ago, it's Alan O'Loughlin from County Galway in the self-sponsored O'Loughlin Insulation beautiful Candy Culture Era 180SX. And Eddie, not the season Alan would have been wanting so far, but another man with a win in him.
Yeah, look, I mean, a regular championship contender, grabs a lot of understeer in the borrowed car from Conor Ansbro, a man who helped me out dramatically yesterday to get back on the grid by lending me a GTR shaft. It was very good of him, but yeah, look, it hasn't been the season for Alan O'Loughlin that he would have wanted. I would just say borrowing cars, not really ideal. But you know what, he's out here, he's doing what he does, but more accustomed to seeing him as a championship contender, and usually at this point he's right there in the mix, a little bit down the order this year, and as we say, we'd expect to see him back next year in full flow. But
yeah, his car in Oman, I believe. Was it
believe
no man?
so. It was a no man anyway, whether or not, obviously not back, but yeah, jumps into third position with a 77. So despite that understeer through the first corner, still putting in a solid run. And as we say, Chris Dean, the man with the big score so far, 87.7. Christopher O'Callaghan with a 79.3, and your top three, Alan O'Loughlin rounds it out with a 77. As we move back to a man on the start line, David Curtis, a guy with a lot of ability, Mike. It just depends. Is he going to bring it on the day? He's a hot and cold kind of driver. When he's hot, he's roasting.
Yeah, we have a couple of drivers like that. We were speaking of Justin Murphy actually yesterday with the JZ powered BMW. Also the same. If he decides to win on the day, there's not a lot of guys that can stop him.
Very hard to stop him.
David Curtis is very similar. He has hot and cold times, but the hot days can be very, very hot, that's for sure. Coming up from the Pro 2 class recently as well, so looking nice there, Eddie, on the way into the first corner.
Really nice line through that first section for David Curtis, and of course in his rookie season of Pro here in 2025. So difficult to try and scrub the speed into that section, Mike, as you know well, and David doing a really nice job. Maybe not perfect, but
listen to the abuse of the SR20 here, slipping the clutch, getting the little SR wound up here on the very grippy semi-slick tyres. It's almost hard to listen to Eddie making the SR do things like that. Guys, round of applause for David.
Achieved in a higher horsepower car. Achieved in a higher horsepower car. Making it work. Missing some of those outside zones, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a huge score for him, but he does move into fifth position with 71.7.
Yeah, Sean Watt, one of the few drivers today that will be trying to range, that's for sure, just to loosen up the rear that we will not be doing this task to make this long drawn out sections of this track work without the hot spot.
So there we go, first run done dusted for Sean Watt. We turn our attention back to the start line where it's our first and only female pro driver, Adrienne Wheatley, in her rookie pro season. She sits on the line. Perfect start to the season for her, but she has shown.
She's making her way into the pro class and looking more and more comfortable. She's making her way into the pro class and looking more and more comfortable every round. 780 brake horsepower under the bonnet of that PS13, and round of applause there for Adrienne Wheatley.
So wait for the scores to drop in from our judges for Adrienne Wheatley, and it is a 63. It's a 63 for Adrienne, of course. With that straight in, Mike, you'd feel that was always going to happen. Obviously missing zone 2 as well.
Yes, and now an interesting one as well. David Garvey unfortunately getting a lump of rubber from the track under his timing belt in his JZ, in his new PS13, and therefore does not have his PS13, but he is in an equally powerful car.
Yeah,
it's a BMW.
It was a BMW E46 2JZ underneath the bonnet. I mean, this car has all the goodies, borrowed from Nathan Corcoran, who also loaned this car out at round 2 to none other than Harry Kerr, if I remember correctly. Or was that round 1? Sorry, round 1.
Yeah.
So this car has got a lot of driving this year. You can see the amount of marks that are on it. It's been driven in anger. And David Garvey, with limited practice behind the wheel of this car, doing a really nice job in the early stages of this run.
Yeah, of course. Dave Garvey was one of our judges previously, and good to see him back in competition. I'm very impressed by the way that he's just sat back behind the wheel, and he looks really good from the get-go.
Yeah, look, that's a considering the amount of seat time he's had in that car, that's a really strong run there from David Garvey. Expect to see that go right up the order, and Garvey jumps into 6th position with a 71.7.
Yeah,
so
that could be a qualifier. Could be a qualifier already. And Nathan Corcoran, you build whatever that car costs, I don't know, 60, 70,000 easily, and just give it to everybody.
Yeah, and here we go, Dennis Murphy. Well, it's time to get your phones out, because straight from the off, he's getting the rear end of that car nice and loose. Dennis Murphy, we say he's as mad as a bag of spiders, and that car sounds just as crazy. And I had a little laugh and a joke with him yesterday, saying that we haven't seen him on the podium, we haven't seen him win an event, so maybe a little bit of a fire lit under Dennis Murphy here this weekend as he looks to make his way back into those silverware positions on the grid. Doing a nice job. It's not the perfect line here, Mike. It is a little bit off. I think that's going to be reflected in the scores, but certainly for a first run, and just a wake-up call here for Dennis Murphy. It is still only early in the day.
It is. Dennis doing the superstar thing, arrive and drive pretty much. That's the Bandit Drifters 180SX built by James Dolan, and Dennis Murphy just sitting in and driving that car. Pure superstar stuff.
Yeah, jumps into 7th position with a 70.3. So again, down the order a little bit.
He was on the podium here before, actually, Eddie. I remember misfiring Paul McCarthy. Dennis Murphy took me out on his way to the podium down here in Watergrasshill previously, so he does have some podium history down on this track.
Well, back on the start line in one of my favourite cars, Kieran Casey. What a machine this is. This would, line this up in any show and shine, and it would probably take home top spot. But Kieran Casey, he's got it way too hot, Mike.
Way too wide, yeah, way too wide. 800 odd brake horsepower in this 2JZ Power, beautiful S15. He's after putting a couple of stone marks on that car, I think, definitely, as you mentioned, Eddie. Beautiful car there. But Kieran Casey, the Limerick man, looking better and better according as the seasons have gone on, but they're just making the big mistake on entry, and the judges are going to absolutely crucify him for that one, Eddie.
Yeah, they are a strict bunch, our judges. Of course, Tom Murphy, Tomas Falvey, and our head judge, Kieran Hines. But they take no prisoners, Mike. It's got to be perfect if you're going to get a score. And the score does drop in of 70.3 for Dennis Murphy. And again, another driver down the order, Mike. And we do start to see these scores
they're all
higher and higher as the day goes on. And the man will be looking to turn his fortunes around. Sits on the line, Sean Owen Curry.
We got him. Apologise to Sean. We were so excited from Jack Mahweeney's charge in the Corolla the last time that we said he took out all the 2JZ cars. But of course, Sean Owen Curry was one of those cars. It's RB Power. I should know because we sell him parts in Group T. So I probably should have known that.
Hey,
but
look, we can't be perfect all the time, Mike.
Exactly.
We deserve a little bit of forgiveness every now and again. But look, it's a long weekend behind the mic, behind the wheel. But Sean Owen Curry is looking to light up his face and the crowd here in Watergrasshill with a big run in this incredible car. Gets that line a little bit wrong. He's too early.
Yeah,
as he tucks the nose in, you can see it just affected. He's just not perfect on the rest of the clips as he comes down that back straight. Tries to scrub the speed, manages
He's
to do
gone
so,
very wide here, Ed.
A lot of wheels, Mike.
Yeah.
You can see it all falls apart when you get that initiation wrong.
It just seemed like he needed to dial in the angle a little bit earlier into the hairpin, and still fine-tuning this car. He's not fully comfortable with it yet. It gets better every round, but it's still a tough machine to drive, I think. And Sean on there with a lot of mistakes, of course. One wheel drop is a small deduction. Two wheel drops is a much larger deduction. Three wheel drops, huge deduction. Four wheels is a 0.
So we move it on to a man, as we briefly mentioned, making a return to drifting competition. 7 years out of the hot seat for Diarmuid O'Connell, but he is back this weekend at his home track, Watergrasshill, local man.
Yeah,
but
just
one of the drivers
from Mellow.
A lot of people in attendance may not have been a drifting fan, may not have been born back when Diarmuid O'Connell was wowing Irish crowds, particularly. The standout events like Punches Down for me was when Diarmuid O'Connell made his name.
He had a huge accident there actually once. I was standing right at the barrier and he hit the barrier. I thought he was a goner.
Thought he was gone, yeah. But you know what? The car always made it back out on circuit. He is a man that can contend for a top spot here this weekend. There is no doubt about it. But he has to start here at qualifying, and he's getting ready for his first run. We're just making sure that the track conditions are suitable. Marshals just cleaning up a little bit of dirt left over from Sean Owen Curry. But here we go. Diarmuid O'Connell making his return to competition. 7 years, as we mentioned, out of the hot seat. What can he do in his first run of qualifying? The driver is allowed to use the full width of the circuit for initiation as O'Connell throws it in nice and hard and looks to be hooking it up nicely, just a little bit shy on outer zone 3 there, but gets back in it as he looks to scrub the speed. And again, that line just fades away as he comes down by that second hairpin, Mike. It's starting to get away from Diarmuid a little bit here. Yeah,
needed to hit the throttle a little bit earlier just to keep the car out onto the outside of the track for 5 there, but it's a better second section of the lap here, I have to say, and it's SR20 power, I believe, in that Corolla. It was rotary for a while, but the mechanic, self-employed mechanic from O'Connell Automotive in Mallow, doing a good job there. Maybe just left a few points on the board. Could have been a tiny bit wider, as you mentioned.
Yeah, but obviously, as we say, the good line throughout, and a score of 81.7 drops in, so only our second driver getting into the 80s. As you said, we expect to see those scores starting to creep up as we move it on to Nicky Davey. Well, we talk about the man who has probably got the biggest bill at the end of every drift event, trying to keep 3 cars, himself and his 2 sons, going. And you know what?
Dean and Nicky and Jake there, the 3 cars from the Davies out on track. Jake taking the podium yesterday, and I think he might be leading the Pro 2 class, the youngest Davy, and did so with a foot in a cast.
Yeah, incredible. As the father of the 3 washes wide and makes...
Maybe he heard you, Eddie, because maybe you put him off thinking of all the money he's spending with 3 cars out here this weekend.
He's like, oh, God.
Yeah, I better stop.
Rethinking it all.
Maybe he just didn't want the tyre bill to get any higher there and just shut it down.
Yeah,
But
look, unfortunately for Nicky Davey, and look, at the end of the day, he's here to have a little bit of fun. His main focus is going to be on his two kids, his two boys, and their own success, and they are really lighting up the championship and showing that they have very bright futures. And I wonder, Mike, where we're going to be with this sport in Ireland in 3 or 4 years' time, with the amount of young drivers that we have coming through the ranks. They've got the ability, they've got the backing, they've got the the means to practice on the simulators. They put the hours in, and I think we've got a really bright future. But right now, leaving the line, it is the Falcon. Johnny Flynn leaves the line. He was looking good in practice. He needs a good weekend. He needs some luck on his side. It's been tough for Johnny since he put a 2JZ underneath the bonnet of this S14. But he's hooking it up nicely here, Mike, and it's looking good so far for the Falcon Flynn.
Yeah, just a little bit of a waver there, though, on the transition, Eddie. Not a smooth transition. I think he lost drift for a split second there, so the judges in the pro competition are going to really mark him down for that one. And, you have to maintain drift, obviously, and better second half here from Johnny. Nice and tidy, using the JZ power there very well. Could have been maybe a foot and a half wider there, but good lap, Eddie, but big mistake on the transition.
Yeah, look, definitely plenty of positives to take for that from for Johnny Flynn. Will it light up the scoreboard? I don't think so. Score drops in. Yeah, look, a 67 there for Johnny Flynn. Inside the top 10 at the moment, but it's not going to be enough to threaten for top 32.
I think the live stream said 97 there for a second. People at home are probably saying, what? But 67 that was.
So Jason McInerney leaves the line. I'm not sure if you caught it on his socials, but this man behind the wheel of a simulator was absolutely nailing this circuit, practicing, putting in the hours ahead of round 3 of the Irish Drift Series. He's coming here for a big weekend this time around. Look at the line here from Jason McInerney as he fires onto the brakes.
Look at the speed.
The speed.
Yeah, he had huge speed over the straight.
That back straight, Mike.
Yes, so impressive. Possibly the fastest car we've seen so far. Jason McInerney making the step up to pro there last year.
Look at the line, Mike. This is solid here, and it's just showing the hours on the simulator for Jason McInerney.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, really, really nice line. Expect that to go right up there. Will it contend with Christopher Dean? I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think he's going to knock. Just doesn't quite knock Christopher Dean out.
Look at this, Mike. An 85.3 for Jason McInerney. You know what? We said it'd be close, and it's right up there. 3 drivers now in the 80s. We move it back to the start line where Damien McKiernan, he's got an engine swap in this car. He's gone from RB28 to RB25. It's been a tough week for the team in DMAC Motors, but they've got the car on the grid. He's ready to go. The Oma man fires it in, Mike. He doesn't get that first corner right at all, though.
Yeah, I love seeing DMAC out on track. Well, Damien McKiernan DMAC, not the other DMAC. I see enough of him.
The naughty DMAC.
But, yeah, Damien McKiernan, always very, very entertaining. Absolutely all or nothing. Wreckers or checkers. Love his style. Doesn't always work out for him, but when it does, it really does. And he's putting down an aggressive lap in qualifying here. Maybe not the most technically perfect, but that impact score. Look at the tyre smoke and listen to that RB scream.
Yeah, I think if he can manage to tidy up the initiation there in that first section, I think he could score very highly today if he can get it all together as we await that score to drop in for McKiernan. It's a 71.7 for Damien McKiernan, and we have a lot of drivers tied in and around that section. 3 drivers currently on a 71.7. We go back to the start line, though, where it is none other than Adam Kelly making, well, it's 2 back-to-back pro rookie drivers, and Adam Kelly was going really well in practice. Big speed through the first corner, Mike, but he's shy on that really wide line through the first section. That's going to hurt the rest of the run here.
Yeah, the big R33 Skyline carrying a lot of mass there down the hill in Watergrasshill, so a bit of a correction there as a result, I think, for Adam. But you know what? We've been saying that Adam is a driver with huge potential. Didn't show it so far this season. Of course, we are in reverse championship order. The runs will be coming in, theoretically at least, better and better according as we go down the championship. But Adam not sitting where he wants to be in this series for the car that he's built at least.
Well, you know what, Mike? Interesting, because he sits just outside the top 20 in the championship. He scores an 81.3. And you know what? A good result here could punch him. And, top 15 finish for him in his rookie season in pro could be huge. Now, a man on your screens who needs a good weekend. We talk about this guy as one of the future stars of the sport. Well, he's already a star. Owen Magner leaves the line. And an awesome talent here. Nails it through the first section.
Do I hear a misfire? Oh, I thought I heard the misfire. Yeah, huge build SR20 under the bonnet of this ex-Dennis Murphy S13 Sylvia, the Sil 80, looking lovely with the Sylvia front now in the hands of Owen Magner, but unfortunately a big mechanical there, I think.
He's just been plagued with mechanicals in this car, and I think, you give him a consistent car and this guy will light up the world, but unfortunately He's going to have the nerves for the second half of the run if the team can get that car back.
Well,
running,
you
firing on all
mentioned
cylinders.
you mentioned socials there. If you follow Owen Magner on his socials, he was here practicing Friday morning and doing his leaving cert at 2 p.m. on Friday. That is a fact.
Yeah, well, you know, I think driving takes priority over the leaving cert these days, it seems, as we go back to end the lines. A man who's having a very strong season so far. Another good round here could pump himself right into contention for a top 10 finish in the championship.
Big left foot break there.
Yeah, kicking up some dirt, gets the line wrong, and you can just see getting onto that inside line far too early. As you say, Mike, the use of the left foot brake.
Or possibly even just using the foot brake. I would say he probably had his foot on the clutch at the time, so using the foot brake there and locking up on the inside. So, or maybe was using the foot brake. I'm not sure. Would lock up either way for Inda there. A little bit of trying to get his technique for the entry or get his mistake for the entry sorted, but he entered too early, initiated too early, and for me, I think, and for the judges, that's the run already almost over.
Yeah, well, there you go. Score drops in a 71 for End of Lions. As we move it back to the start line is the fresh Prince of Kildare, Gary Dunn in the borrowed 2JZ powered Altezza from Andrew Kenna. Gary, he's tied 15th in the championship, making the comeback to competition in the borrowed car this year. It's been looking really good. He's coming in really hot though. Can he hold it and make it work? You know what? He was having difficulty with that second zone throughout the morning in practice. The rest of the run, he seems to have nailed as he comes in with a lot of pace into that second hairpin and absolutely nails it. Gary Dunn on an absolute flyer.
Yeah, it's something that the Altezza seems to suffer with a little bit. We saw it in the hands of Dai Yoshihara in Mondello and the MG Crash Repairs one as well. They tend to understeer when the track drops away from them a little bit. The front seems to go quite light in them, and they're very difficult to get the front to really steer them when the track drops away.
Well, here, look at this. Big score drops in for Gary Dunn, an 84.7. The rest of that run after clip 2, really perfect. Drops him into third position. He's going to be delighted with that. That's going to relieve some of the pressure. He knows he can go full ham for the second run, and it's a nice start for the fresh Prince of Kildare. As we move it on to Daryl Barnett, the Armagh man in the E46, 1JZ underneath the bonnet, 450 brake horsepower, the 2012 UDC champion, 2013 IDC semi-pro champion, and this guy, well, you know what, he's a real talent behind the wheel. A very strong round 2, showed us or reminded us, Mike, what it is he's capable of behind the wheel, and be looking to cement that this round here in Cork, and a track that should suit his driving style quite well.
Yeah, consistent driver, very experienced driver as well as Daryl Barnett, and using all that experience here, even though he's travelled a long way to be here, not as far as Ryu say, but travelled a long way to be here, and not his home track, that's for sure, but he's very used to going around this track. And a 75 for Daryl Barnett, so that's putting him well up the order, and in ninth.
10,
in ninth position, so Daryl will be delighted with that one as we move it along to a man who has built a much more powerful car than he has ever had this year. It's Stephen Halferty with the 2JZ powered E36 Touring.
Yeah, said that he was really starting to get the grips with this car a little bit more, a little bit of a transition period after he changed over to that 2JZ power. And this guy, well, when he's on his day and when he gets really comfortable in this car, will be a real contender. But right now, doing a perfect job so far. Mike, looking really strong. Perhaps could be a little bit deeper into those outer zones, but I think the likes of Halferty, he's a really strong line driver, and I think that he will just be holding back from pushing fully 100%, maybe about a 90% run for him in terms of his ability, and just collect those points as he goes, get a good solid score, which I think this will be. I think this will contend for a score in the 80s, or certainly very close.
Yeah, he's possibly
just
in the top 3 of technical drivers. He's in the top 3, I would say, in the championship, and this track will suit him because it is a very, very technical track.
Well, there you go. Just breaks into the 80s with an 82, fourth place for Stephen Halferty, and you say a bit deeper into some of those outer zones, and he will be right up the order. We move it back to the start line where Dean Byrne sits on the car. I spoke to him earlier, Mike. He said the car is like a rocket ship, and once the car is fast, it puts a smile on his face, so he's enjoying himself here this weekend. What can he do there on his first pass of the circuit? Comes in hard and fast.
Nice angle there, Eddie.
Fully committed with big angle, Mike. Exactly.
No waivers, no little corrections or anything. Beautiful line there from Dean Byrne on entry. That's exactly what the judges want to see.
Yeah, Dean Byrne sitting just outside the top 10 in the championship, so it's been a successful year for him so far. He'll want to bump himself up the order. He'll have his sights set on the top 5.
Yeah, maybe wasn't quite as wide there on the second hairpin as he should have been, but apart from that, that's a huge lap from Dean Byrne, guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another big one, Mike.
All the style points as usual. Japanese driving style from Dean Byrne there, guys. Round of applause there for the man in the 180SX. And let's see a big score drop in, I think, for Dean Byrne.
Big score, and it's only enough for 7th and 80 on the board. As we say, those scores now starting to come in hot and fast. As a man that I'm very excited to see, always wows us here, Ben Rogers. This is a man that can really contend for the top spot, Mike. We're getting into the business end of the championship order.
We are
top
indeed.
10. Ben Rogers is inside that. Pro rookie this year, but a guy to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, a very gentleman outside the car, but inside the car, an absolutely crazy driver, showing us that crazy driving ability. But just a bit of a correction there. You saw the rear just hook up a little bit, and he had to correct on the front. So a slight correction from Ben Rogers. Of course, in the pro class, we are ultra critical. We are at the pinnacle of Irish drifting, and that is. That is going to be a thing that the judges will mark him down for. But does drop a wheel there. I was just going to say the rest of the run is looking really good, but he does drop a wheel and reinitiates there. It's falling apart a little bit here for Ben Rogers, unfortunately, the second half of the lap. Still will get a score on the board. Still might be enough to see him for battle action, but not the run he would have wanted for his first qualifier, that's for sure.
He really came in hard and fast there, but just grabbed that little bit of understeer, and it all went south from there. But a 64.7 as we move it back now to the start line, where it is.
Yeah, it is due to be Jack Mawhinney, who we saw doing absolute wonders in 170 brake horsepower, 20 valve AE86 in the wet at Bishop's Court. His BMW turbo engine expired in his own car. He's in a borrowed car, that's for sure. Not sure whose car this is, but this is a borrowed, naturally aspirated BMW by the sounds of it, Eddie.
Yeah, certainly does sound like it, Mike. And, Jack Mawhinney saying, to hell with having all the power. I had so much fun in an underpowered Corolla. I'm going to try coming now in an underpowered E46 BMW. And you know what? Look at the line. Almost perfect around that second hairpin. You
listen to the clutch kicks to keep it going.
You can say that, you'd struggle in an underpowered car. As you say, look at you just hear, all them clutch kicks. But he's making it work here, Mike. And I think, you know what? Jack Mawhinney.
Oh, my word.
Forget about the engine rebuild. Just borrow underpowered cars and just go out there and have fun. And he is smiling, loving this behind the wheel.
Yeah, a round of applause there for Jack Mawhinney. Absolutely making that car do things that it has no right to.
A 76.3 for Mawhinney.
That's crazy.
It's right up there, and he could be in contention with that. Jack Caldwell now sits on the line, 6th in the championship. This young guy is incredible, Mike.
The young man from Strabane, just still, I believe, 15 years of age, and absolutely crazy to see a 15-year-old doing this kind of thing. The Caldwell family, as we always say, with a rich motorsport pedigree at this stage, and young Jack is definitely carrying on that family name, that's for sure. Look at this, a beautiful line all the way around the outside, around the hairpin. Now gets the car switched back around. Perfect outside line once again. Just leaving a little bit of room to play with there. The judges mentioned you can put wheels on the curb. If you go on the grass, you're off track, but you can go on the curb. Look at this perfect outside line for Jack Caldwell. What a run.
I'm shaking my head in disgust, Mike, because that is absolutely just disgusting that he can do that so well at that age. An 80.7 for young Jack Caldwell. What a run. I mean, this guy, he's a future champion, no doubt about it. I think he's a little bit too far off. He's 5th position. A win here today could put him right up there. I think he's a little bit too far back this year, but I think 2026 could be the year for Jack Caldwell.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Could be his breakthrough year. And another man, speaking of breakthrough years, he had his breakthrough year last year by winning the Pro 2 Championship and making his way into 4 of 5 Pro events as a result of his Pro 2 finishes, and taking 4th place in the Pro Championship as a Pro 2 driver, which is unprecedented.
It's so unprecedented, Mike. I'm not even sure, based on that performance last year, if you could call Jakob a pro rookie this year. He's an incredible talent behind the wheel. Incredibly well built car. A lot of support there from Paulius in TH components. And look at the line early doors. These guys are just nailing it. And Jakob, well, there's really no bad runs in this guy. He just comes out and nails the course every time. He'd like to be further up the order. I think he'll be a little bit disappointed that he hasn't managed a podium so far in 2025. Well, could round 3 here in Watergrasshill be the time? It looks as though it may be. Based on this qualifying run, I think this is going to top qualifying.
Yeah, that's a fantastic run from Jakob. It looks to have his gearing nicely set there for the car on the limiter. He's having fun. There's a lot of engine revving there, lots of backfires, and a great run there from Jakob Krzyzak.
So will it go top? It certainly does. It doesn't break into the 90s, but an 89.3, about as close as you can go without getting a score in the 90s for Jakob Krzyzak, who sets the bar nice and high as we go back to the start line now, where we will have Fionn Roach in his S14. This car was refreshed to be resold or to be sold. And I think that's going to have to happen again.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to refresh it again because he's not getting a good bit of use out of this S14. His spare car, the Drift Masters driver, making his way up to the initiation point down here at Watergrasshill at IDS round 3. Beautiful initiation, fires the back of the Sylvia. Bang on line there, maybe slight adjustment then as he faced it into clipping zone 2, but he's back on line here through 3, 4 and 5. He's on that outside line, picks up 6 very nicely, gets a switch back. Nice late transition there from Fionn. Now he's going to have to hit the throttle as hard as possible here. Yeah, does get the car on the wall, and it's a steady lap from Fionn. Maybe could have had a tiny bit more aggression, but a measured lap, and that's exactly what you want for your first qualifier, Ed.
Exactly. Look, get a score on the board. He does that. It's a big one as well. It's an 85, or an 85.7 we're hearing, so it's enough for third position for the moment for Fionn Roach. That's going to take the pressure off. We're moving into the top 3 in the championship, sitting in third, fresh off the top step of the podium at round 2 in Bishop's Court. It is Harry Kerr sitting on the line. And Mike, we spoke about it briefly. This guy comes alive on this circuit. Expect to see him in the mix later on today, the battles. But he's got to get it done here in qualifying first. He launches into that first corner, Mike.
Yeah, launches it in. I thought he was going to go wide there, Eddie, but the Ballymunning Bandit making it stick there. Maybe tiny waver into 3 there, but all the aggression, all the impact points here as usual for Harry Kerr. Love watching this guy out on track. He's always so aggressive, so entertaining. And you know what, Eddie? I think this guy is a future IDS champion all day long.
I think so, Mike. Hard to agree with it. It just need, you know what, the stars just need to align for Harry Kerr.
Huge angle over the line as well.
Yeah, incredible. Look, did have that, a little bit of washing with the front wheels on the first section, the first corner there, but after that it was near perfection for Harry Kerr. Will it be enough to threaten top spot? Can it break into the 90s? We await the score to drop in here from the judges. Where is Harry Kerr going to land? They're making us wait for it, Mike.
Yeah, the big 3.
Well, there you go. It's an 83 for Harry Kerr. Not the score he was going to be hoping for, but again, he's right there in the mix.
Yeah, and of course, guys, as we always say, we'll explain it a little bit better on the break between the first and second runs of qualifying. But the higher you qualify, the theoretical easier draw you have in top 32. But this guy needs to qualify highly. It's Ryusei Akiba.
Yeah, well, he's done nothing but that this year. A little bit down the order at round 2. Would have liked to have been further up, make a further charge. But look at this again.
Maybe just a little.
That
track knowledge, Eddie, maybe doesn't have that level of track knowledge that the Irish guys do. This first corner is very, very, very difficult.
It really is a challenge, and what's interesting is that in practice on his first run he actually nailed it and showed no signs of having to get to grips with it. But it's starting to heat up as well out there, Mike, so that track conditions changing all the time, and as we progress through the day, a lot more rubber getting laid down, but as the sun starts to come out and appear through those clouds, that track will be starting to warm as well, so conditions changing for the drivers. And the score, from a Ryusei is 76.7.
Yeah, he'll have to improve, Eddie, if he wants to stay in that big 3.
It's going to give him a tough battle draw later on this afternoon.
And drop those Japanese flags in on the live stream, guys, for support for Ryusei, making his way over from Japan for every round. But on the line, Eddie, who is it?
Well, it's one of the biggest names in the sport. It's a man that's been competing for longer than most of our Pro 2 grid have been alive. Dwayne McKeever, the Northern Smoke Machine. He's a multiple Irish champion. He's a multiple UK champion. He's been a championship contender in Drift Masters European Championship. He flies the flag everywhere he goes, and this weekend he's in this borrowed Strom S15 and he is leading our championship. He won't be happy with a third place step on the podium at round 2. He was the winner at round 1, and he'll be looking to get back on that top step here in Watergrasshill. Can he take the title of King of the Hill? Well, he's had that title many a time before, but he's got to start with a big run here in qualifying, and Dwayne McKeever is coming forward so fast, but he washes as well, Mike.
He washes.
What is going on with our top 3 drivers in that first corner?
Wow, I don't know. The aggression might just be getting the better of them a little bit. Dwayne McKeever sending the car a little bit wide there. I don't think it's going to be nerves in Dwayne McKeever, but you know what? A little uncharacteristic mistake there from Dwayne. He's going to have to have a perfect second half of the lap if he wants to get into the 80s, Eddie.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, this is Dwayne McKeever we're talking about. It won't bother him too much if he has to get it all done on the second run. He knows he has it in the experience and the ability to overcome that, but he won't be happy with that, Mike. He'll be frustrated going back into the pits. It's only a 74 for Dwayne McKeever.
Okay.
When was the last time you saw Dwayne McKeever scoring a 74? That concludes our first set of runs for qualifying, Mike, at round 3. And right now, the man to beat, Jakub Kuzczek with an 89.3, nobody breaking into the 90s.
Nobody breaking into the 90s yet, but again, in the second run, Eddie, everybody pushes the boat out, pushes it that little bit harder, looks for the extra 5 or 10%, and usually that's when you see the massive scores dropping in. And Eddie, it is worth, of course, noting as well that there are championship points on the line for qualifying. First place qualifier gets 11 points. There's 100 points available for a win. As Kieran Hines grabs my leg as usual to put me off as I'm speaking. There's 100 points available for an event win, but you get 11 points for leading qualifying, 10 for second, 9 for third, etc. And also you get a theoretical better draw. First place goes off against 32nd, second goes against 31st, etc. So there's a huge onus on qualifying highly here.
Yeah, there really is, Mike. And right now it's Jakub Kuszczak. And I mean, look, we spoke about him. He's a little bit down the order in the championship. He's 5th on 91 points, so he's 99 points
Which
off Dwayne McKeever.
most drivers would be delighted with that, but I know Kuba's going for this championship, so.
Yeah, but a win here and top in qualifying, 111 points. If McKeever, can't get it together, if Ryusei can't get it together, all of a sudden, Jakub with 2 rounds to go could have himself right in the mix. It is tight there. The top 3 have a little bit of a buffer, but the likes of Fionn Roach, the likes of Jakub, and Jack Caldwell, even down as far as Jack Mowini.
And Dara Spencer is next, and we don't have Dara Spencer.
Dara on the grid here this weekend, so whether or not he's competing for the rest of the championship, who knows, but I would imagine by missing this round, that'll put him firmly out of contention. But as I say, there's a few drivers there just kind of separate themselves as first to third, Harry Kerr, Ryusei and Dwayne, but there's 3 or 4 other drivers there just tinkering on the edges, Mike. If they can get a good result today and maybe see the likes of any of our top 3 drivers bowing out, top 32, top 16, we could have a very interesting championship chase going into those last 2 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you mentioned, there is a buffer to the top 3 guys. The big 3s, we call them Dwayne McKeever, Ryusei and Harry Kerr. And Harry's sister Molly actually doing a fantastic job at her 350 yesterday. I think, we called Molly Kerr Harry's sister, but I think it might not be long before we're calling Harry Molly's brother.
I got an opportunity
she's going to be more famous.
With Molly yesterday, and you line up beside Molly. She's got the tunes blaring in the car. She's dancing away. She's having a good time, and then she goes out and she's absolutely nailing it. Underpowered car, 350, but she makes it work. Qualified into the top 32 yesterday. You gotta love it. I mean, we've got how many female drivers in the Pro 2 class? We've got
3, yeah.
Yeah, we've got
Saoirse,
Molly, and
Katja. Yeah. And we have Adrian in the Pro class.
And we have Adrian in the Pro. So we're really starting to see a lot more female drivers coming through. Love to see, the girls coming out, flying the flag, showing that it can be done, and putting it up to the guys. I lined up beside Molly, and I thought, I'm going to get absolutely schooled here because there's a huge gap between her capabilities and what I can manage as well.
I think she's going to be more famous than Harry within 2 years. And we're going to refer to the Kerrs as
that's sounder than Harry as well.
Yeah, way sounder, yeah. And but we're going to be like, that's Molly Kerr's brother. So yeah, it's all happening here in IDS, and according as some drivers, they leave the championship, they go on abroad, or they just take some time out, build the house, do the usual thing, get married, all that boring stuff. But according as that happens, for each driver that leaves, Eddie, there's another driver coming in, if not 2, to be honest. And the level of talent up through the ranks that we saw yesterday in Pro 2 rookie, Pro 2 junior, it's crazy what's coming up through the ranks in this country.
I think we call it maybe the Dave Egan era of running events in Ireland. It started to filter off. A lot of the pro drivers that have been around for about a decade or more started to kind of filter out, move on to other things, and the championship I think kind of lulled for a while. It kind of plateaued, but I think we're firmly on the rise here.
Yeah, I would agree completely.
So many young drivers coming through, and what's crucial is they have the backing to keep going. A lot of drivers, they can do well and be Pro 2 heroes, but they don't have the backing to really be competitive and mix it up in pro. But I think we've so many young drivers in their early teens, and they're just beyond talented for their years. 5 years' time, that pro championship is going to be off the wall.
Yeah, and it's become a family sport almost. When I started, it was a lot of lads with their buddies coming to the track and just getting it done. And the cars were less expensive. You could compete on, you were competing on road tires. It wasn't quite as costly. The transmission stuff, the engine stuff wasn't as costly as it is now. That's for sure. But now these days, obviously, the cars are crazy spec. You see huge horsepower even in the more basic pro cars, and it's become a family sport because it has to be to make it into it, and
yeah, I mean, it's one person behind the wheel, Mike, but I mean, if you don't have an incredible team behind you helping you with just even simple things like refueling the car, changing the tires, checking the tire pressures, helping you with setup, down to, have a mechanical issue, somebody that can come in and just take over so that you don't have to do all that work, that you can relax, you can just focus on your driving. It's so important. But you see so many families down here now. The rigs are getting bigger and bigger every year. It's a family affair. They're spending time coming down here, enjoying themselves for the weekend. And, the sport is really taking off here in Ireland. It's always been a big deal here in Ireland, this sport. We've always produced really talented drivers. But I think it's a very exciting time to be an Irish Drift fan, because we have so many new faces, new stories to talk about, new personalities coming through the ranks. And, the likes of the Conor Shanahans, the Jack Shanahans, the James Deans, the Dwayne McKeevers that we've seen throughout the years. We know them, but they've moved on to bigger and better things. And now the door is open for new guys to come in and become the new personalities, the new drivers that everybody talks about, that everybody wants to be, that they want the autograph. That's what it's all about here.
It is indeed, and one of those guys, we're just hearing that we are warming the first car once again now, and one of those guys coming through the ranks, it is Alex Butler in the BMW, and what a prospect that he is, Eddie. Yeah,
what a prospect. Well, I say I'm the good luck charm here, okay, because if I qualify into the battles, whoever goes against me in the top 32 and inevitably beats me,
it definitely
naturally goes on to qualify for pro. It happened at round 1.
Eddie, that we've got a conspiracy against you as well, not to let you into the top 4. If you get to the top 8, you're not going any further, because then you're driving today.
Do you know what? I think it's a real
I have to put up with Adam then.
An over-the-top exaggeration of my skills, Mike. If you think that there's a conspiracy, there's no way that it'll ever need to happen that you need to score me down to keep me from being available on a Sunday.
Well,
I think my driving will do that for me as we go back to the start.
I'd agree, Eddie, yeah.
It's the second half of qualifying. All of our drivers have one under their belt. They need to now put a score on the board. Currently, Alex Butler actually sits on a 0 from his first run. He needs to put a score in to try and get himself into the top 32, but only 31 drivers have actually scored so far. So he's currently sitting in 32nd position.
Yeah, lots of transmission issues out there.
Much better, Mike.
Yeah, lots of transmission issues out there. Alex actually got it done in one lap yesterday. He seemed to break a half shaft, I would say, in qualifying. Got it done. The guys got the car back out, his dad Keith and the guys working very hard in the pits there. Look at him here, he's doing a fantastic lap, Eddie. I'm not sure is he using the semi-slick tyres or if he's stuck with road tyres.
He was, yeah. I spoke to the team earlier on. They said they had to, you can hear him kicking that clutch as well, so I would say he's definitely on them.
A turbo BMW engine in this as well, actually.
Yeah, so they've... it looks like a score going to be coming in, and it's a 75 for Alex Butler, puts him into 17th position, so bumps him right up the order. Time will tell how that's going to go for him. So Matt Darren sits on a 61, which has him sitting in 28th position. So he'll want to bump that score up. Of course, 40 drivers, 32 spots in for the battles later on as Matt gets it wrong through that first corner, but he's making it work here. Has to straight line a little bit just to make it work for outer zone 3.
Yeah,
look at the use of the front brake to try and slow that car down. It's so fast down that back straight.
It's so fast, yeah. The car really hooks up and catapults you forward according as you come off the hill there. So it's very important then to get on the brakes super hard and scrub the speed. Matt Darren's still not totally safe, I would say, with that score. So he has to improve here in order to make sure that he's in for battle action, up from Pro 2 yesterday, of course.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of improvements in the scores. So
yeah, the crowd liking that one, Eddie.
Yeah, the crowd liking it, that Darren fan. And it is an improvement. It's at 69 for Matt Darren. And it does bump him up the order slightly to 25th position. So it is going to be a nervous wait for the Pro 2 driver as we go back to Colin O'Sullivan, the man who took all the marbles yesterday in the Pro 2 class. But it's a 45.3, Mike, on his first run. And while that has him inside the top 32 at the moment, he has him sitting in 30th position. Don't expect that to be enough.
Yeah, definitely not enough. He's had a dream weekend so far. It's his birthday weekend. He's doing his leaving cert, and he took the top spot yesterday, but he has to improve here, Eddie, because he is currently in big trouble with that score.
He's got it wrong through that first section, Mike, and I don't think it's going to pay off for him. Yeah, you can just see having a straight line, doing his best to try and keep that car on angle.
And if you get the first corner wrong, it has a knock-on effect all the way down that straight.
You can see by the line as he takes, is a perfect opportunity to see it from that drone footage. And... yeah, drops it, gets it wrong. Yeah, it's going to be a 0 there for Colin O'Sullivan, unfortunately. I think that's going to be the end of his weekend. He's still inside that top 32, 30th position at the moment. I'm going to hazard a guess, Mike. I'm going to say the cutoff going to be in and around the 44, 45 point mark. I think that's where we could end up seeing the cutoff. At the moment, as it stands, a 39.3 gets you into the game, but we only have those first runs done and on the board. So a round of applause there for Colin O'Sullivan. As we go back to the start line, a man who will have no nerves after his first run. Well, might be a little bit annoyed with being knocked off top spot. He currently sits in second position. It is the cousin of James Dean. It is Chris Dean, a man who has been travelling all around Europe, helping James on his quest for another European title. But right now, Chris Dean will only have one focus on his mind, and that is topping qualifying here at round 3 of the Irish Drift Series. But he washes wide, Mike.
Yeah, I watched it quite wide, but does he get... It looked like he got it actually tucked in there, Eddie, in the end. A little bit of a correction, but Christopher with nothing to lose here, guys. He can absolutely throw in that big angle on entry because he is sitting pretty in second position. He knows he's safe for battle action, and he's just trying to improve with that big entry. Doing a very good job so far here, Eddie, on the second half of the lap. Now he's on that perfect outside line that the judges want to see. Nicely on the wall, nicely back onto that outside line. Full throttle with the JZ power across the line. 360 and takes the cone out, and why not? Great lap there from Christopher Dean apart from that correction.
So there you have it, second score there for Christopher Dean, an 86. So 2 very consistent scores, but it's not enough to bump him into first position. He stays in second. Now a man with it all to do, Stefan Stefanov, the travelling driver here this weekend.
I think he had clutch slip issues possibly in the first lap, something like that. It sounded like he was getting a lot of revs and not a lot of forward motion. So I'm not exactly certain what exactly happened, but hopefully Stefanov has that S-chassis sorted, and we do seem to have forward motion at least, which is a good start. Maybe he just had a boost pipe or something come off, I'm not sure, as we hear the dump valve hissing there as he passes. And unusual noise out of this car already. Very interesting build. And we have had Stefan competing over here before, of course, not having the best of looks so far, but looking better this time.
Blinder here, Mike.
Yeah.
Look at the hard on the foot brake there, just to try and control that car and scrub some of the speed. So fast, as we say, going through that section. Beautiful angle here from FPV drone footage. Incredible stuff as he takes it onto the wall. If he finishes this off, Mike,
yeah, it's going to be a huge lap here from Stefan Stefanov, guys, and he does finish it off.
Struggle to try and scrub that speed again, but a really fast, explosive run there from Stefan Stefanov.
Yeah.
And he jumps into second position with an 88.3.
Guys, round of applause.
What a way to round out qualifying on a 0 from the first run. Gets it done.
Yeah, the visiting driver there making a very long trip to be here, so well done, Stefan. And we move it along, Eddie.
Yes, we do. Back to the start line for Damien Wilkinson on a 44, and he's on the drop zone, so he needs to bump up the score. He needs to get it done here, Mike. Pressure on him. He'll know that as he leaves the line. He's got to be perfect from here.
He does indeed. He's sitting just on the drop zone in 32nd position, so massive pressure here. Could have been a tiny bit wider on the entry there, Eddie, and could have been tighter.
Very generous there, Mike. Could have been way wider, yeah. And just, you see, I mean, look, not to sound like a broken record, but get it wrong on initiation, and the lap's not going to come together. This might not be enough for Wilkinson as he, zero.
He's in 32nd position currently, and there are a lot of drivers who are on zeros, and Kieran Casey has a score on the board, but he's underneath him. Sean O'Curry has a score. He's underneath him. These guys still have to run. So I don't know, is this going to be enough for Damien Wilkinson to qualify, Eddie, to be honest?
Yeah, certainly going to be a nervous wait for him for sure as we move it back to the start line, where Mark McKevitt now has the pressure of needing to put in a big score on his second run of 56.7. And of course, well, 40 drivers started the weekend. We did lose a few drivers to mechanicals, so the required score here may not be too high. So spotters out there might be in the ear of the driver saying, you know what, just get a solid 75 plus score on the board. No need to, break the mold. Get yourself into the battles, and who knows from there.
Yeah, who knows from there, exactly. As we see the crowd there on the bank with a fantastic view, great vantage point here at this track in County Cork. And being treated to some top-level driving here, of course, guys. We are just gridding the drivers for battle action this afternoon, so this is just a precursor to the show, really, Eddie. And still being treated to some fantastic showmanship here. But Mark McKevitt, like you said, Eddie, maybe not trying to throw any big angle, no wild transitions, nothing crazy, just getting the lap in there, banker lap again for the second one, maybe moving up the order a small bit, and that should see him in for battle action, I would say, just about.
Yeah, I think is it going to be an improvement on the first car? I don't know. It just wasn't there as a run, and from where I was watching for Mark McKevitt.
47. But he's still, he is still, he's in 30th.
He's going to be nervous. So Davin Leahy now sits on the line. It is not Clark Hatton. It's Clark Hatton loaning the car to Davin Leahy. Davin Leahy, I believe, didn't get a first run.
No, didn't get a first run, no. So big pressure on Davin Leahy's shoulders, usually driving the V8 GT86, but borrowing Clark Hatton's.
Hasn't had a lap in this car, Mike.
Hasn't had a lap in this car, wow. So usually driving A V8 GT86, now driving the JZ powered M2 BMW, and this is a huge ask, Eddie.
This is a huge ask. And I mean, Davin is an incredible driver. We know that. I mean, look, as we say, Mike, the scores aren't hugely high here. There's not a massive amount of drivers here contending for those top 32 spots. The spotter will have been on the radio, just make it work. He's got through, I don't want to give him the commentator's curse, but he's got through the hardest sections of the circuit. He just needs to get on the throttle to get around this zone, get a score on the board, and I think Davin Leahy may have just put himself into the top 32.
Yeah, great lap there from Davin. Apart from the mistake down into 4 there, he almost stopped the car. You know, he just wasn't used to the way that it was going to transition. But
what
Eddie,
about that, Mike? 21st position for Davin Leahy with a 71.7. Is it the greatest score we've ever seen from Davin Leahy? Absolutely not. Is it enough to get him into the top 32? 100%. Christopher O'Callaghan now sits on the line with a 79.3. He is improving with every round of competition, Mike.
Yeah, he had a lot of corrections in him so far, and I think drifting is it's such a different discipline to the rally driving. So definitely getting a little bit more finesse. Flicks the car to the right, flicks it back to the left. Lovely initiation there from Chris Callahan. Really liking that. Much better engine, as I mentioned. His old engine setup would have been quite laggy and difficult to drive. So looking a lot better this time now with that engine working for him here. Possibly a lot more responsive as well to his right foot. Now he does come on the inside a small little bit there. Could have been further out towards 5. But overall, it's a good lap here from Chris Callahan. And Eddie, he's looking like a man who's really getting to grips with the sport now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Not sure if there's going to be an improvement on that 79. You know, just not letting the car wash far enough after outside zone 1. And, from there, that back straight, it really just doesn't hook up. It's a 76, so yeah, two very similar scores. No improvement for Christopher O'Callaghan, but he's right up there in the mix. Sits in 13th position, so he'd be delighted with that. You get kind of a mid-pack battle in the top 32 for him. So, not a bad place to be.
No, and Alan O'Loughlin under the bonnet here of the 180SX, the borrowed 180SX. And
throttle cable we're hearing.
Well, you could do like James Dean's dad did in that famous picture and sit on the bonnet.
Sit on the bonnet, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd allow it.
It'd be grand. Like I don't think there's any problem. If
They were a lot
only we
strict-
had
Health and
navigators.
safety was a lot stricter back then, so it should be fine.
If you don't know what we're talking about, guys, check that one out, because James Dean's dad has a absolutely crazy picture of himself and his he was co-driving, I believe. Was he driving? Maybe he was driving.
I'm not sure the exact order. I think he was.
Was he driving?
It was his brother,
Anyway,
brother or cousin.
their throttle cable snapped, and one of the two of them anyway.
I think it's one of the greatest motorsport pictures ever taken.
Oh, they were finishing the
certainly
rally
up there.
stage with a guy sitting on the engine, basically sitting on the engine, using the throttle cable by hand, twisting it by hand, or twisting the throttle by hand, and finishing the stage with manual power.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
really, really incredible.
crazy stuff.
I don't think we'll ever see the likes of that ever again.
Might be
but,
frowned upon these days.
Yeah. So Alan O'Loughlin, 77 on the first run. That sees him. Well, he's in 15th position, Mike. He's definitely safe for a top 32 action.
Okay, so his throttle, we're hearing from Sean Healy, our track controller today. Alan O'Loughlin's throttle is sticking slightly open, but he's still going to try it. I presume that means that he has throttle control, but if it'll just
better than sticking closed.
it is. And you know what, Eddie? It's not going to be a big problem, because, to be honest, you're always priming the throttle with your right foot anyway, coming in over the brow there and into the hairpin. So it's just going to get the revs up for him.
So what we're hearing is it's not closing fully, but I mean, don't lift.
No, just
Don't lift and
leave
sure.
it.
No.
Oh,
okay.
no.
Yeah, we're getting the.
Forget everything we
we're
just
getting
said.
Cancel that from our head marshal. So unfortunately, maybe look, borrowed car, maybe not willing to take the risk. He's already in the game. The spotters will be in the air saying, "You've qualified. Get the car back to the pits. Let's work on it. Let's try and get it safe and back out for top 32."
It's a bigger mechanical issue.
Yeah, no need to take any stupid risks, Mike.
Well, no, it's a bigger mechanical issue, I think, than they think, because this car is being recovered. So possibly an issue with the throttle body or something on that car, rather than just a sticky throttle or something.
Yeah, shout out to John Shanahan, who is operating the recovery Jeep this weekend. I've used his services many a time.
Yeah, you don't.
I probably made him work harder than anybody else.
No, John will probably sledgehammer this engine here now to get that going. He'll just start shouting at O'Loughlin, get a lump hammer, hit the throttle body a belt of a lump hammer and unstick it, and that'll be it. Or else he'll just break it. It'll be one of the two. One of the two will happen. But yeah, John Shannon is a man you want in your corner in a 5-minute rule. That's for sure.
Absolutely, you can see. Oh no, he's just. I wasn't sure. Was he having a look at it there, or were they just? He's having a chat.
He just blowed the driver out of the way.
So recovery / pit crew as he tries to figure out, can he fix the problem?
I think that's actually what's happening.
Is that incredible?
I genuinely
Incredible.
think John Shannon is trying to get Alan O'Loughlin out for the second run.
He certainly is. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that is what he is doing. What a man. I mean, look, with that man in your corner, I think anything is possible. And
Alan O'Loughlin just needs to do what he's told here.
There is zero quit in John Shanahan. And if there's any opportunity, well, the bonnet's getting put down. Will he bend down to take off that tow hook? No, unfortunately, not able to get it done. So there's something more serious wrong with that car, Mike, as you say, as they look to recover it back into the pits. Well, John Shanahan giving it a go.
If John Shanahan can't fix it with the lump hammer, it can't be fixed, to be honest. But I'm sure the guys will give it a go in the pits, and we'll hopefully see Alan back out in action. Of course, the Irish Drift Series is so fantastic in the pits. I guarantee you that there'll be a crowd of people around that car trying to help out other crews. Even if he's going to be battling against a rival crew, they'll be trying to get him going, Eddie, in that car. And hopefully we will see Alan O'Loughlin with a working car for top 32, because as you mentioned, he's been quite plagued with mechanicals.
He certainly has, and you know what? Him and all the crew there at Candy Culture, they're all some of the most approachable people on the grid, and they're a really nice team of guys and girls. And as you say, they'll have no shortage of help to get Alan back out for the top 32. So, as you say, he's safe enough as it is. As we turn our attentions to David Curtis, who again was most likely safe. He sits one place higher than Alan O'Loughlin, a 78.7 on the board from the first run, and he will be happy enough with that pressure off, Mike. It doesn't really matter from here. You obviously want to get 2 good scores. He'll want to bump himself up the order, but it's nice to know on the line that you don't have the pressure of having to pull it out of the bag. You're in the show, and David Curtis, well, will we see him improve?
Well, we could listen to the abuse again here now. This guy puts on the clutch. Of course, the SRs don't have quite the torque that the big 6 cylinders do, and you have to drive him that bit harder. Listen to this abuse if he does it again now. It's almost hard to listen to. David Curtis fires in the little Sylvia over the hill and makes the 4-banger scream, that's for sure. Now filling up Watergrasshill here with smoke, Eddie, and it's looking like a tidy lap once again from Dave,
Mike,
here.
This is, if he can keep this going, this is hooking up almost perfect. He's been glued to the very extremities of the circuit here on that wide line the whole way around. Shallows up just a little bit there as he comes through that up the hill. Maybe that'll hurt the score a little bit, but I think this is a big one here. It's definitely an improvement on the first run from where I'm watching. That was perfect through 1 to 3 anyway. Yeah,
maybe lacking a tiny bit of fluidity, but overall a good lap from Dave there. Abusive once again on the clutch, maybe not quite as much as the first lap, but still definitely getting his money's worth out of the clutch there.
Yes, does bump himself up the order. Into 7th position goes David Curtis with an 83 on his second run as Sean Watt leaves the line.
Sean Watt?
What? Well, he's in the show. He'll be delighted at 22nd position, 71.7. 3 drivers sharing that score. As you can see, Sean just fighting the steering just to try and keep that car on the perfect qualifying line. Shallows up and misses outer zone 3 just to try and maybe sacrifice that line to get perfect through this second hairpin.
Drops a wheel a little bit though, Eddie.
He certainly does. Judges maybe not be too harsh on that. He definitely will have bled points by missing the 4th zone. And you can see just starting to shallow up. But you know what, Mike? With this sort of power, you have to make sacrifices. You got to say, well, where can I be good? Where can I sacrifice to try and get a score on the board?
Yeah.
But as for now, Sean Watt, well, he's inside the top 32.
You really have to think about it, Eddie. Like you said, you have to make your decisions about where you're going to go, and sometimes it doesn't work out so good. But 69 for Sean Watt.
Yeah, not bad. And as you say, inside in the show as Adrienne Wheatley leaves the line. She's on a 63, Mike. She's in the show as well. She's down the order though.
She's in 30th, Eddie. She's not sure to qualify here yet. So Adrienne Wheatley's in 30th position, guys. She can be knocked out of competition. So it's all to play for here for the Cork woman here. A Watergrasshill veteran, Eddie. She knows this track as well as anybody. And you know what? This lap is looking a lot better.
Yeah, Adrienne absolutely stepping it up here. Does come a little bit shy there just as she comes around with a second hairpin, but I think this is a big improvement if she keeps it going. Nice wide line, just tucks in.
Oh, just tucks in there, yeah.
I think that's going to hurt the score, but I think she's on for an improvement on the first run. That's 63. Look, couple of spots where she could have been better, but I think, you know, if you're talking about clip 1 to 4, near perfection there from Adrienne from where we were watching, Mike, and of course we're watching on the screens. We don't have the perfect view like the judges do, but 80.3 for Adrienne Wheatley puts her right in the mix. Where does she land? At 13th position. Huge improvement for there. They're coming in hot and fast, Mike. We're not getting a moment to breathe. David Garvey leaves the line for his second run. He's on a 71.7. Mike, I need to catch my breath.
Yeah, borrowed car from Nathan Corcoran, 800 brake horsepower under the bonnet of this E46 BMW, and unfortunately for Dave Garvey, the borrowed car maybe just catching him out a small bit and totally missing inside zone 2 there, and he is in 24th position so far, probably safe for qualifying, Eddie. But you know, as we mentioned, you have to qualify highly if you want to get that at least theoretical. Oh, and a big drop there for Dave Garvey. It's all falling apart here. You have to qualify highly if you want to get that handier draw for the top 32.
Yeah, I'd say, well, we're going to test my math skills here, Mike, okay? So he currently sits in 24th position. That leaves 8 positions to top 32, and with only 40 drivers competing, some of those already out of competition, and Lee McFadden not competing, I think that means he will be safe. 36 will be a score that he'll want to forget as we go back to the start line, where Dennis Murphy now sits on the line, 70.3. He's in 27th position. He's going to need to bump that up.
Yeah, definitely needs to improve as well. Does Dennis Murphy in the Bandit Drifters 180SX, a Watergrasshill veteran as well. Dennis Murphy, Corkman also, so just about an hour from this track, so a relative local. Now, does he run a little bit wide there? Doesn't actually, just about manages to keep the car on track, I would say, and you've got to love Dennis Murphy's driving style. Absolute hilarious man outside the car, but not a perfect line there around the second hairpin, quite Adrian Wheatley-esque, maybe not on the throttle quite early enough, or maybe had a little bit too much angle. But you know what, once again from Dennis there, it's an aggressive lap. You get the impact points, maybe not technically perfect, but the crowd liking that one.
Yeah, certainly do. And a 79 bumps him nicely up the order. Interesting fact about Dennis Murphy, incredibly fast behind the wheel of a go-kart.
Yeah, and also an Irish set dancing Munster champion.
There you go. Kieran Casey now on the line. He's got some work to do, Mike, because he's currently outside the top 32. He sits in 34th position. He's only got a 39.3 on the board. We talked about how well the car looks. Well, it's not going to look well parked in the pits if he's not in the top 32. He's not here for show and shine. He's here for one of the craziest sports in the world. It is drifting. And Kieran Casey just comes a little bit shallow there, Mike, and you can just see how that affects the exit clip of that hairpin, but he gets back on that wide line. He's making it work. Look at the drone.
Yeah.
It's incredibly such a cool angle to watch.
What a fantastic angle that was.
Yeah, watch these
Not
guys,
from Kieran, but from the drone, but also from Kieran.
Well, maybe from both.
Maybe from both,
You know what? The first half of the run wasn't perfect, but he finished it off in style. It's definitely going to be an improvement on the first score. That's obvious to anybody watching on. But where will it land him? It's a 69.3, so bumps up that score, bumps himself up the order.
He does improve, and in the process, he actually knocks Colin O'Sullivan out of competition.
Yeah.
So Mark McKevitt now in 32nd position with a long wait, but
and this man on the screen can knock him out with a score because he sits on a 0. It's Sean Owen Curry for his second run of qualifying as he comes in full tilt. Can he tuck the nose in? He certainly can for that second zone, and now gets hard on the throttle. Really fast down that back straight as he tries to scrub the speed with big angle, but it costs him on the line, Mike, and he misses that outer zone.
Yeah, comes in a little bit too early there from 4. Looks like he kind of backed out of it a little bit and maybe didn't fancy going off track, so took the lesser of two evils there. Sean Owen Curry has to improve here, guys, or he is not qualifying for battle action. He's come a long way to be here, Eddie, and this is a big lap for him.
I'm going to guess that he's improved on a 0.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think you could.
It's a 71.3. So
how many drivers on 71 do we have? It's crazy.
Quite a number of them. So 27th position for Sean Owen Curry. Just about in the spot where I think he's safe, but it does knock Mark McKevitt out. Now Ben Rogers sits on a 64 in the drop zone. That's the target score. If you're outside the drop zone, Dermot O'Connell on an 81.7. Won't have to worry about any of that as he fires his trusty Corolla in as hard as he possibly can. Nails that inside zone at clip 2. And this is shaping up to be a nice one here from Dermot O'Connell, if he can keep it going. Does come offline though as he comes into that 5th outer zone, and that's going to hurt the score just a touch.
Yeah, old friend of mine, Eddie. I'll have to come up with some dirt on him for the battles for a bit of a laugh. But also a man here absolutely hammering the clutch of the SR20 there, but making it work for the little Corolla. Maybe not the most fluid lap in the world, but
yeah, probably not. I don't think it's going to improve on his first run. No, a 70.3, so he stays where he is with that 81.7. Sees him 10th position. He'd be happy if he can stay there. So Nicky Davey now on a 0 from the first run. He needs a 64.7 or better to put Ben Rogers in the pressure cooker, because Ben Rogers will have a second run, but he's on the drop zone.
Nicky Davies stopping. I'm not sure, did we hear like clutch slip or something on that car? He seemed to be revving it, but again, it could have been just something.
I don't believe he warmed his tyres there. was a little bit distracted when I was looking
possibly
at the
Eddie,
scores on the
yeah.
screen. Not sure if he
And
warmed his tyres.
and you know what, Eddie? That was a great observation because cold semi-slick tyres are like absolute ice to drive on, and they caught him out right there initiating. That was a fantastic observation, Eddie, because that's exactly what happened, and that could mean that Nicky Davey, his car might be right on the line of not being able to compete here after that mechanical in the first one.
Oh, there it
And
goes. Just
there it
cemented.
goes, yeah.
I mean, you know, make the judges' decision very easy, unfortunately, for Nicky Davey.
Yeah, we'll try to get word from Nicky exactly what happened there, but I think the car was on the very edge of being able to compete after that first lap there. We saw him with a mechanical, didn't warm the tyres, paid the price on cold tyres on entry, and then unfortunately not able to complete the second run. So Nicky Davey will not be in battle action earlier, but his son Jake had a fantastic day yesterday, and the Davies will be taking home a trophy with them up to Carrick Karting. And we move it along to the plumber from Mayo. It's the Falcon, Flynn, Johnny Flynn, the plumber from Mayo.
Yeah, it's the housewife's dream. Johnny Flynn on the line with a 67. Needs to improve. He's sitting in 31st position. This car, of course.
The judge's nightmare, you mean?
The judge's nightmare. No, look, Johnny's such a nice guy behind the scenes. He's always there to lend a hand. And you know what? He can be a pretty talented driver. Is there a clean-up? Oh, there is a clean-up.
Clean up on aisle 3 after
so
Nicky Davey, yeah.
Sorry, when you see the marshals inside the door of the car, sometimes you have a little bit of concern, is there an issue with the car? But of course, Nicky Davey.
He might be telling him how to plum his house, telling Kevin, our start line marshal.
Could be, yeah, maybe just, you know.
Kevin's kind of that age now. He will think
giving
of a house.
him a wee price.
Yeah, might be giving him a quote, yeah. On a few radiators and maybe a nice bath and a jacuzzi.
How cool. From one of the...
Pardon the pun.
From one of the most uncool looking men on the grid to produce the coolest looking car on the grid.
Wow, Eddie.
I think I can go there because I know Johnny. He's a good friend of mine. But I mean, is that not the most California looking cool car that you've ever seen?
It's like something Matt Powers would be driving back in the day, Eddie.
It really is, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it's like. It gives me those kind
but
of
Johnny Flynn,
vibes.
Johnny Flynn's not Matt Powers.
He's certainly not, but look.
Even better
He'll
looking.
probably thump me now when he sees me.
Absolutely, me too.
Don't tell him to watch the live stream.
Yeah, don't tell him. Hopefully there's no speakers down at the start line either. Johnny Flynn, a gas man, rings us quite a lot at group. I didn't even mean that, actually. I didn't even mean it. Pardon the unintentional pun there, but guys, as we wait there, you see Johnny Flynn under the Red Bull start line. Our sponsors, our title sponsors, are of course Red Bull and Lucky Day competitions. Lucky Day with those crazy draws, giving away villas in Spain and everything at this stage, and crazy car draws and agricultural stuff. Just could absolutely change your life, to be honest, to win with the some of the stuff they're giving away. And Red Bull, fantastic brand, Eddie, great brand to work with, and they are of course doing this crazy event down in Spike Island in Cork in just a few weeks time, the Drift Pursuit event. So be sure to get on the socials and check that out. It was absolutely mental in Limerick last year. It's going to be taken up several notches this year because it is on an island which is a former jail down in Cork, just off the coast of Cove there in Cork Harbour. So absolutely crazy event coming up. You have to get there by boat. So it's going to be just absolutely nuts. And of course, we are also in conjunction with ECU Master, GMD Tyre and Service Centre, Eugen Factory, TS Drift Days. That's Tommy Smith and the guys. You can come down, bring your car down here on this very track and do what these guys are doing. Maybe even better than them. Definitely better than Johnny Flynn.
And
and Eddie, our commentator, exactly.
Well, you'd have to get a 68 to be better than Johnny Flynn, in fairness now.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's
the mark.
It's a standard required.
It's a high mark. And driftmagazine.eu, covering all things Irish drifting and international as well. And also, of course, Strom Wheels, which half of the grid are running at this stage, to be honest. Turn Distribution, Nisuba, Group D, where you have to talk to me if you ring, unfortunately for you. CDM
Still
Sport.
better than talking to Darren, though.
It's better, possibly better than talking to Darren. Or you could get the lovely Ivan on the phone, who has a stand out here as well down at Watergrasshill. And of course, be sure to visit the IDS stand to get your merch as well, guys, and pick up some of the fantastic clothing that they have and support the series. And CDM Sport, we saw Conor Duggan, the guy behind CDM Sport, competing yesterday, also doing performance car parts, competing in his BMW yesterday, doing a very good job in it as well. And Shift AM, the official media partner of IDS this season, and they are putting out a series on YouTube behind the scenes.
Doing fantastic work behind the scenes to
exactly.
Promote the show. And
yeah, James and the guys there, great guys.
Opportunity as well, Mike, to say a big thank you and to the hardest working people in drifting, which is our track marshals, as you can see. battling. They battle all the conditions, whether it's sun, rain, hail, snow. No matter what it is, those guys are down there keeping the show running, and the unsung heroes of the sport. And they don't always get the appreciation that they deserve. And they're the guys that we rely on. But now the man he's used to laying down pipe. He's going to be looking to lay down the perfect qualifying line here for his second run. Here comes the Falcon, Johnny Flynn. Not as wide as he would have liked. Gets that line just.
Yeah, I was
not
afraid.
Perfect, Mike. It's not perfect here from Johnny Flynn, but as I say, he's in the show. But he needs to improve. He'd like to get himself into the 70s here.
Eddie, I was thinking that his tyres might have lost a bit of temperature there. He was waiting a long time.
Mike. It was a long wait, and maybe should have been offered. Probably was offered, but maybe decided not to take the opportunity to rewarm those tyres. And, well, I made one good observation on the run previous. You made it on the second run, Mike. And you know what? We might be confused with people who know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely, Eddie. We might, but we definitely don't. We just wing it, and that's what we do pretty much.
We just go to the script.
Yes, exactly. I think Johnny might be after improving. No, I was just going to say I thought he might have crept into the 70s, but just a 65 there.
Close. It could have been a slight improvement, but no. So Jason McInerney now sits on the line.
Johnny Flynn is in 31st position, so it'll be a long wait for him as well. Jason McInerney is safe for battle action with a great score in the first one. Remember the speed of this guy coming up from Pro 2, putting in a 2JZ into this BMW for Pro Action, and always showing great potential when he was with that naturally aspirated engine in the Pro 2 rookie class. Puts in the JZ, had a couple of mechanicals, still getting used to the car, but he's looking fantastic, Eddie.
This is good again, Mike. This is an absolute blinder of a lap here. It was an 85.3 on the first run. I don't know, look at the angle here as he used the angle to scrub the speed up the hill, hugs that wide line, big smoke screen,
right on the
angle,
wall,
big speed, very little decel.
Wow.
Oh, that's a big run from Jason McInerney. Round of applause. What about that? I think
crowd loving that one, Eddie.
Is this a 90?
We're loving that
is
one.
it in the 90s?
I literally
I've got
have goosebumps.
You do too. It's a 92 for Jason McInerney.
I've literally got goosebumps.
I
Eddie.
am
You'll
trembling here
that.
watching that run. And we're not even joking. We have goosebumps. The hair on Mike's hands or in his arms. He doesn't have hairy hands. That'd just be great.
That's only at night.
So as we try to recompose ourselves, Jason McInerney sets the bar. The first driver into the 90s with a 92. What can the Oma man who sits on the line, Damien McKernan, do? The team have worked so hard to get this car back on the grid, ready for round 3. 71.7. He's in the show, but he's down the order. He's sitting in 26th position, Mike. He's going to want to improve on that. I'm exhausted and it's only qualifying.
It's only qualifying yet, yeah. I'm going to seek Jason McInerney out in the pits and give him a big high five after that one. That was crazy. Damien McKiernan doesn't have a start line marshal to send him on his way, but he does now. Kevin, not sure what Kevin was doing there, but he's back in action now. And Damien McKiernan, once again, he is wreckers or checkers. It is all or nothing usually. And check out this guy's the stock that this guy has as well. He's got some fantastic cars actually at DMAC Motors.
I've actually been in the shop, and he only stocks the best of vehicles, so it's all top end German cars. But here we go. We won't be worrying about that at the moment. The bank balance and the shop performance can wait until Monday, because McKernan is coming for it here on the second run. Again, Mike, the entry, just, leaving a little bit to the imagination. And I mean, we're being really critical here because we're comparing them to perfection. We're comparing them to a 100-point run. That's what they're after. That's what they're trying to achieve. And McKernan, well, he's looking to improve on that 71.7 to bump himself up the order. But he is safe, Mike, 4 battles later on this afternoon. And I think he'll be happy enough just to get 2 runs under his belt.
Yeah.
And get back to the pits and, just settle himself for the battles later on.
Yeah, strong second half of that run, Eddie. Liking the commitment once again from Damien McKiernan. And great stock in his shop there. He's got an X5 up there, and I hate to think of the cost of it, but it is a fantastic thing. And I would love to buy it myself, but I have an affliction for buying motorbikes, unfortunately. So 73.
Improvement on the score, 73.7, as Adam Kelly now leaves the line. So 81, big run from Adam Kelly, and really
fires in the skyline. Oh, little correction there though. Yeah, just a little bit early on initiation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's we talk about it. It's a split-second thing, Mike. You know, if you're not perfect, that line just is. You can be an inch off on the initiation, and you can be a mile off.
In Kerry, an inch is a mile, Eddie.
An inch is a mile. Yes, you can be a mile off a few meters later. So. Adam Kelly, not sure that's going to be an improvement on the first run, but he's sitting there inside the top 15, 11th position for him. He's going to be happy with that. I think that's a big performance there from Adam Kelly, showing that he has what it takes to compete and, as you say, making that jump up to the pro class. And an 80.3, so judges liking it, Mike. Judges liking it. Two
car,
very consistent scores.
Car prepared there by Adam at Dean Import, Mike
So
Deans.
this man, well, there was an engine problem on the
There
first run
was.
for Owen Magner. You know, he just needs that little bit of luck.
Oh, it's misfiring big time, Eddie.
Top 32.
It's misfiring. I can hear it.
You can hear it already, Mike.
Oh, if I'm driving that car, I'm shutting it down. That's an engine killer. That's an engine killer right there.
Right in the
possibly.
exact same spot, and that is heartbreaking for Owen Magner.
You know, Eddie, these SRs, when you push them to that horsepower, this is a crazy 2 point. It's over 2.2, I believe. Is it a Mazworks engine? I'm not sure. I can't remember the spec of it exactly, but it's a huge spec SR22
It really
basically.
is, yeah,
anyway,
it's it's so highly strung, but it's heartbreaking, and drifting can be such a difficult sport, Mike, and it can really test every ounce of you, as you well know.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the season just starting to slip away, unfortunately, for Owen Magner, and maybe one he'll want to forget and put behind him.
Back to the leaving cert Monday, I guess. He is literally doing his leaving cert at the moment. So, tough weekend for Owen Magner, but he'll be back, top driver, and looking forward to seeing him back. Now, In the Lines leaves the line on a 71 so far.
Yeah, down in 28th
as everybody else has.
But he'll be looking to improve quite a bit, because he is sitting nicely in the championship, and if he can bump himself up the order into that top 10, perhaps some valuable championship points to be attained. You can just see a little bit of a waver there as he came into that zone. It's so
just about
safe. It's actually terrifying trying to scrub the speed into that zone.
It is, yeah.
It really gives
it
me
comes up fast.
It gives me the heebie-jeebies, so it does. And
at least there's no wall there.
At least there's no wall. Yeah. Oh God, if there was a wall, I don't think we'd have too many cars on the grid. But In the Line's doing a good job.
In the Lines staying in the lines.
Staying in the lines, and I think that's going to
be
like
colouring in.
It's an 85.7 and 85 puts him into 5th position. Well, we talked about the important championship points. There's a few of them for you as we go back to the start line, where a man sitting inside that top 10, Gary Dunn, the fresh prince of Kildare, the man behind GDM Sport, and the man looking after a lot of cars this weekend, but he's got to look after his qualifying line here. Can he nail that second zone as he goes three-wheeling? He's just struggling to get the line perfect through the first two zones there, but the rest of it is just hooked up to perfection. His dad Tommy will be watching on in the pits with a keen eye. Oh, as will Andrew Kenna, who won't be happy with the abuse that the car is taking here. A little bit offline goes Gary Dunn, but he's got that score of an 84.7.
Yeah, Gary pushing it, trying to get the massive score in for the second one, I think, Eddie. And
I think so.
It works out maybe 1 out of 3 times that kind of run works out. But
it's one thing that we've talked about with Gary. He's really trying to push himself a lot harder. He knows he has a solid line, but he sometimes just needs to push that little bit extra.
He'd be pushing the car.
Aggressive.
He'd be pushing the car around the pits, Eddie, if he keeps driving it like that.
Yeah, he'd find the limits, but no improvement on the score. But he does sit in 7th position, so he'll be delighted with that. He's pretty chilled out behind the scenes as Darryl Barnett now leaves the line 75. The score on the board from the first run of Darryl Barnett, and looking for an improvement on that. You can just hear full throttle of that 1JZ power, absolutely strangling that inline 6-cylinder engine.
Yeah, but a little bit on the inside line there, Eddie, around the first hairpin. Not the line the judges want to see, so Darryl Barnett bleeding off points. Of course, the judges start this run on 100 points, and they have an electronic system where they can deduct points from the driver as the run drops in, and that means that the scores then are automatically calculated and drop in straight after the run, which they do, and it's a 72.3 for Darryl Barnett. Consistent though, but you know what, Eddie, he's way down there.
Do you know what's happening here, Mike?
And Dwayne McKeever is actually underneath him. Darryl is 22nd, Dwayne is 23rd. So, but a man who will look to improve, Eddie, is Stephen Halferty. He's in 10th position.
Yeah, and if you cast your mind back to Halferty's first run, the line was near perfection. He had all the zones, and what was the talking point? It could have been a little bit deeper. Will we see him go deeper here now and push the boundaries just a little bit further, try and get himself up that order a little bit more? He does sit in 10th position currently, is Halferty, and yes, absolutely, nice and wide.
Yeah. No big correction either there into clipping zone 2. Very nice technique there from Stephen Halferty, one of the tidiest drivers in the whole of the country, I'm sure you'll agree. Perfectly on that outside line, or maybe too much. Oh, drops a wheel, Eddie.
Yeah, just
you spoke about it.
He's definitely pushed to go that much. Oh, and
whoa,
big angle at it.
Uncharacteristic, Eddie.
Uncharacteristic, as you say. Look, we talk about it, Mike. These guys are now trying to top qualifying, so the mistakes are starting to creep in. A little bit extra grip on the track. You know, they're maybe trying to grip the cars up to make them extra fast, and that's where the mistakes start to come into it. So,
yeah,
you know, but
not easy to spin now before the battles either.
no,
Eddie.
they'll tidy all that up before the battles later on. So Dean Byrne, another man inside the top 32, no pressure, but he will be going for it, full tilt as he throws it in over the hill. Beautiful S13, Mike.
Yeah, beautiful car, beautiful driving style from Dean. Tiny bit of a correction there as he headed for 2, but not a big one by any means. Tiny bit early there on 4 as well, but once again, minor errors, Eddie.
Yeah, they're small errors, but they will hurt the score, Mike. And as you say, when we're looking for when you're looking for that perfect score, when we're comparing it off perfection, that's what the judges are doing.
Big angle there.
It's scored off perfection, and we wouldn't be doing our job right if we weren't, pointing out any errors that we can spot. And you absolutely rightly called it a little bit early on the transition, and it showed in the run, and it does affect the rest of the line. And obviously, from a point of view of having a chaseable lead line, that's where the judges are really going to be sticklers.
Yeah.
But it is another 80-point score, so 2 very consistent runs for Dean Byrne. He's going to be happy with that. As we go back to the start line, Ben Rogers sits on the drop zone at 64.7.
Yeah, this is a nerve-wracking lap for Ben Rogers. I can only imagine the nerves in the car.
I don't think there's anybody left to go who can knock him off that spot. So I think he's actually safe.
Oh, yeah, Mark
but
McKevitt
he
is
won't want to be going against top qualifier.
No, Jason
So
McInerney's currently top. You don't want to be facing off against him. It's not going to be a good battle for
we
you.
also
You know?
have our top 3 to go for their second run as well, Mike, who will want
Exactly.
that top spot and are all more than capable of putting in a mid-90s run. So this is not where Ben Rogers would want to be. Does he have a 70-point run in him? Absolutely. He can, throw out a 70-point run in his sleep. But he's got to get it done here as he scrubs that speed well. Perfect through 1 and 2, Mike.
Yeah, looking like an improvement already from Ben Rogers here at 64. Not the score he'll be wanting. Does come a little bit shallow there, but gets back online and absolutely hammers the S14 through the centre of our Watergrasshill track. Picks up number 8. Beautiful on the wall, nice transition, and gets the car settled beautifully for the last corner from Ben Rogers and fills the last outer zone 10, and a great lap from Ben Rogers there. Big improvement, Eddie.
That's more like it from Ben Rogers. I mean, I think even on the second hairpin, said maybe slightly out of position, slightly off it. An 86.7 for Ben Rogers. Jumps him right up the order, 5th position.
Delighted, yeah.
Johnny Flynn onto the drop zone. We move it on to Jack Mawhinney. We've got an update on Dwayne McKeever in a moment. Mawhinney in the borrowed car, the underpowered hero, 76.3. He's in the show. He's got no pressure.
Look at this.
Unbelievable.
What is he doing in this car?
I actually prefer watching Jack Mawhinney when he's in an underpowered car.
He has no business making this work like it is. Look, he has to drag the handbrake for 10 or 20 minutes just to get it to the corner. And
look
he still
at the
makes
line, Mike. From
what
the
a
drone
driver.
is just proving how perfect this line is. How is he making this work?
He's dropping wheels and everything just to keep the beamer going. He's using the old dirt drop technique. Campaign back in Japan way back in the day to keep the car sideways, and what a driver. Guys, if you have some clutches for BMWs in the pits there, can you bring them up to Jack Mawhinney's pit there, because he definitely is going to need them.
That is proof that you do not need to spend hundreds of thousands of euro to be a drifter. 58 is
until
the
you
score.
meet an 800 horsepower Sylvia in the battles.
Yeah, well, look, I think you can still have a bit of fun. It depends what level you want to go to, but it just goes to show it can be. You can be competitive. You can qualify into a top 32 in pro with even the most basic and budgeted builds.
Exactly.
So here we go, Jack Caldwell on the line. Well, he is inside our top 10.
Look at him warming the front tyres.
Yeah.
Look, fantastic technique.
And
As we always say, push the front tyres around.
Here, isn't it?
Get them scrubbed, get the friction through them, warms up the front, and you need the heat in the front tyres here just as you come into zone 2. Between 1 and 2, the front goes very light for a second, and it does result sometimes in that correction that we see. The front goes a bit vague, but Jack there getting the heat into the front tyres by pushing and understeering them around.
Well, it looks like we have a moment here. Well, it appears to be perhaps a problem with the car for Jack Caldwell. But more importantly, Mike, I'm just hearing from our marshals that Dwayne McKeever is having fuel pump issues and may not make his second qualifying run.
Wow,
if that was the case, he would stay in 24th position on a 74 and give somebody an absolute nightmare battle mid-pack. So that's going to be interesting. Somebody if he sits in 24th position, somebody in and around the 8 to 10 position in qualifying.
Yeah,
going to come up against Dwayne McKeever.
8 or 9, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's not going to be a good time for whoever qualifies. You think, okay, I'm in the top 10, I've done well in qualifying. Next thing, you've got Dwayne McKeever in the top 32, so not easy. So I'm just overhearing there that Jack Caldwell Jack Caldwell was leaking fuel, like it was possibly overfilled or something, Eddie.
Yeah, so they're not letting him run, so he'll miss his second run as we see Dwayne McKeever make it out onto the gridding area.
Awesome.
So,
So
McKeever
we'll get
and
to
the
see
team
that big
getting
qualifier.
getting that worked. But if there's fuel pump issues, Mike, they may have the car going now. Will it work for a full run? Who's to know?
Right, but we're going to ramp it up here, guys. We're in the top 5 of the championship, starting with the one and only Kuba. It's Jakub Krysiak, the self-employed owner of Kuba Insulation, and of course coming over from Poland here over a decade ago, making Ireland his home and making IDS very much his home, Eddie, and making Pro 2 his stomping ground last year.
Well, look, I mean, they really brought the noise here to
And a fantastic crew as well.
They really did, yeah. Such a great support network for Jakub, and he absolutely wowed us. He was the shining star in the Pro 2 Championship. He's not going to be happy here, Mike, with an 89.3. That's not going to be good enough for him. His standards are far higher than that. You can just see him riding that front brake just to keep that car on the desired line. And this is, again, another stomper of a run here from Kuba as he drops a wheel maybe over that white line. I don't think that's going to hurt a score.
We'll have to get
I mean, this is aggressive. It's fast. It's fluid. It's got everything you want from a qualifying run.
Yeah, we'd have to get the goal line technology or the VAR out for that one, Eddie. Might have just dropped the wheel. I think you're right, but it's otherwise.
Line, Mike.
What a great line.
Perfect.
And he's got the car geared perfectly. You can hear he's got the quick change rear end and that. They can gear the car absolutely.
Of Gary Dunn, one spot behind end of lines, and a man who's definitely capable, the Drift Masters European Championship driver, of putting it on the top spot.
He is indeed in his spare car here, more used to driving the GT86 these days, but let's see what he can do in the ever-present iconic Sylvia chassis as he fires it in over the iconic hill here in Watergrasshill, County Cork, and it's a very good entry. Could have been a tiny bit wider, but a lovely angle from Fionn Roach and really nice technique over the hill. Now picks up 3, 4, 5 as he goes along. Nice outside line, dials on the angle now to keep the car inside the lines. Picks up 6 on the way, gets it turned around, picks up 7 perfectly. This is a huge lap from Fionn Roach. Feathers the throttle. Maybe could have been a tiny bit more aggressive there, Eddie, if we're to be very, very critical. But overall, a very controlled and very in control lap there from Fionn Roach. Maybe not a top qualifier, but still well up there, just like his first one. He's looking good here today, Eddie.
Yeah, really is looking good. As look, I mean, Drift Masters is a huge step up in competition. But he is a very capable driver. 88.3 on the second run, slight improvement, bumps him up the order. He goes into 4th position. Now, 3rd in the championship, it is Harry Kerr on an 83. He won't be happy with that. He only sits in 10th position.
Whoa, flicks it in. Look at that. Tiny correction, but lovely angle. Flicks it onto angle, very Japanese style.
Yeah, but crucially though, Mike misses inside zone 2, so that's going to definitely affect the score. I wouldn't expect to see this run go into the 90s, having done so, but he fills that second hairpin. Look at the smoke from the rear of the E46. He's such an aggressive style, so exciting. He's almost got the perfect driving style, you got to say, for Harry Kerr. Uses that car as a tool. No mechanical sympathy whatsoever. Gets it across the line.
Big round of applause there from Harry Kerr.
Look, he's a real fan favourite. Will we see an improvement on the score? An 88, yeah, as I said, wasn't going to be enough to be a 90, having missed that zone. But it is an improvement for him.
Big score, yeah, for Harry Kerr
87. So 83 on the first run, 87 on the second run as we go to 2nd in the championship. Down the order. It's not as what we expected from Ryusei Akiba. He needs to bump this up. Valuable championship points up for grabs.
Yeah, he's in a big battle with Dwayne McKeever for this championship. He's going to have to pick up those championship points for qualifying and also qualify highly.
4 points in it at the moment, but you don't want that to be getting any bigger going into 2 rounds left of the season. Here comes Ryusei Akiba for his second run. Big style, as you expect, the Japanese driver, but he can't make it work. Or can he?
Oh no, he doesn't, Eddie. He has to straighten up. He went for the big flick entry to top qualifying. Didn't quite work out for him. He had a big correction. And once again, Eddie, I think that's track knowledge.
That is, yeah, I think so, Mike. Going for the big run. And, it hurts when you hit that little pothole. I hit it on Friday. It sends the shockwaves right up through your body.
And shuts it down. Ryusei there almost damaging the car there, I would say, but just seemed to shut down there and couldn't get the car steered around. Not sure. Definitely looks like a mechanical, Eddie. Is this going to shake up the championship? Hopefully it's nothing serious, but the car gripped up there at the end, Eddie, and it doesn't look good here for Ryusei, but it is moving under its own power.
And he has a score. I mean, look, we always say, Mike, you can't win the competition in qualifying. You can make life a lot easier for yourself.
You can lose it.
You can lose it, but he is in the show.
He
so
is
here
in the
we
show.
go.
So it'll
One
be a 0
driver
from Yusuf.
left to go on an uncharacteristic 74 from his first run. We've heard reports that he's experiencing fuel pump issues. We don't know, Mike, if it's been fixed properly. It's been fixed enough to get him onto the start line. Is it enough to make a pass up the circuit? More importantly, is it enough to put a score bigger than the 92 on the board and ruin the weekend for Jason McInerney? Because right now only one driver has put a score in the 90s. That man is Jason McInerney.
Yeah, the clear man sitting pretty on top, Eddie. He's going to be delighted with that. But Dwayne McKeever is one driver that definitely can go into the mid-90s, if not the high 90s. Should he have a working car? He has it in his locker. Let's see.
He certainly does. He's done it time and time again in the past. We'd expect nothing short of perfection from Dwayne McKeever in the borrowed car, albeit. But of course, he built his reputation, won many championships by borrowing cars, and he's right on the line here again.
Yeah, look at him feathering the left foot brake there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute stomper here from Dwayne McKeever on his second run. Does drop a wheel, though, as he goes a little bit deep into the third hairpin, throws it down deep onto the wall, puts the car on power to try and scrub some of the speed, gets it back on angle, and across the line he goes.
Yeah, and wow, what a lap from Dwayne McKeever. Maybe didn't have huge angle in over the hill, but apart from that, a typical Dwayne
I
McKeever.
think it was a bit of a safe run from McKeever.
Yeah, it seemed safe to me. He just wants to improve. And
I say that.
Yeah, say that.
It's
but
still
for
a huge
Dwayne,
score. It's a 90 dead for Dwayne McKeever. He jumps into second position, but that does mean that the man from County Clare, Jason McInerney, tops qualifying with a score of 92. Give it up for Jason McInerney, no matter what happens from here, Mike. Topping qualifying at a pro competition for the first time, Jason McInerney will be ecstatic. Now, we have the scoreboard on your screen, but there's some tied scores, as you'll see. A number of drivers on a 71.7. So we need to make those official, but there is your temporary top 32. Jason McInerney top in qualifying, Johnny Flynn sneaking in 32nd position, and Matt Darren, the Pro 2 driver, scraping in with a 69 in 32nd position. He's most likely going to have a battle against Dwayne
McKeever. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Johnny Flynn. It'll be Johnny Flynn versus Jason McInerney, and on the other side of the bracket, it'll be Matt Darren versus Dwayne McKeever. So it's going to be a crazy top 32, Eddie. And
yeah, Alex Butler again, another Pro 2 junior driver, Mike, getting into the top 32 in Pro round 3 of the Irish Drift Series. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, love to see it, exactly. So that is your top 32 guys here at IDS Round 3 2025 here in Watergrasshill. We'll be back for the battle action in just a little while. I would say, let me just check how long it's going to be here, guys. So we're back for top 32 action, guys, at 2:30. That's half to 2:30. So grab yourselves a bite to eat in the pits, and go check out, meet your favorite drivers. Go check out those builds, and we will be gridding the cars and getting them fueled and tired, ready for top 32 battle action here in pro competition at IDS for 2:30. So we will see you guys then, and thank you very much.
Come on. This is how